All right, the Rarick clan is back for Act 1, Scene 2. And in this scene, the parts will be, I will once again be the narrator reading the italics, the stage directions. I'm also going to be playing the parts of Caesar and Cassius. My mom will be Casca and Calpurnia. My dad is Antony. And my brother is the soothsayer and Brutus. So here we go. And action. Enter Caesar, Antony for the course, Calpurnia, Portia, Decius, Cicero, Brutus, Cassius, Casca, a soothsayer, after them Marulus and Flavius, and commoners. Calpurnia.
Peace, ho, Caesar speaks.
Calpurnia.
Here, my lord.
Stand you directly in Antonius's way. When he doth run his course, Antonius was...
Caesar, my lord.
Forget not in your speed, Antonius, to touch Calpurnia, for our elders say the barren touch it in this holy chase, shake off their sterile curse.
I shall remember. When Caesar says, do this, it is performed.
Set on and leave no ceremony out. The word senate means there's like trumpet sound, so just picture it here. I'll play that sound. Okay. Caesar. Ha! Who calls?
Bid every noise be still. Peace, yet again.
Who is it in the press that calls on me? I hear a tongue shriller than all the music. Cry, Caesar. Speak. Caesar is turned to hear.
Beware the Ides of March.
What man is that?
A soothsayer bids you beware the Ides of March.
Set him before me. Let me see his face. Fellow, come from the throng. The soothsayer comes forward. Look upon Caesar. What sayest thou to me now? Speak once again.
Beware the Ides of March.
He is a dreamer. Let us leave him. Pass. All but Brutus and Cassius exit. Will you go see the order of the course?
Not I.
I pray you, do.
I am not gamesome. I do lack some part of that quick spirit that is in Antony. Let me not hinder, Cassius, your desires. I'll leave you.
Brutus, I do observe you now of late. I have not from your eyes that gentleness and show of love as I want to have. You bear too stubborn and too strange a hand over your friend that loves you.
Cassius, be not deceived. If I have veiled my look, I turn the trouble of my countenance merely upon myself. Vexed I am of late with passions of some difference, conceptions only proper to myself, which give some soil perhaps to my behaviors. But let not here, therefore, my good friends be grieved, among which number, Cassius, be you one.
We're still gone.
And we're still going. Nor construe any further my neglect than that poor Brutus, with himself at war, forgets the shows of love to other men.
Then, Brutus, I have much mistook your passion, by means whereof this breast of mine hath buried thoughts of great value, worthy cogitations. Tell me, good Brutus, can you see your face?
No, Cassius. For the eye sees not itself, but by reflection, by some other things.
'Tis just. And it is very much lamented, Brutus, that you have no such mirrors as will turn your hidden worthiness into your eye, that you might see your shadow. I have heard where many of the best respect in Rome, except immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus and groaning underneath this age's yoke, have wished that noble Brutus had his eyes.
Into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius, that you would have me seek into myself for that which is not in me?
Therefore, good Brutus, be prepared to hear. And since you know you cannot see yourself so well as by reflection, I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself that of yourself which you yet know not of. And be not jealous on me, gentle Brutus. Were I a common laughter, or did use to stale with ordinary oaths my love to every new protester, if you know that I do fawn on men and hug them hard, and after scandal them, or if you know that I profess myself in banqueting to all the rout, then hold me dangerous. Flourish and shout will be...
What means this shouting? I do fear the people choose Caesar for their king.
Aye, do you fear it? Then must I think you would not have it so?
I would not, Cassius, yet I love him well. But wherefore do you hold me here so long? What is it that you would impart to me? If it be aught toward the general good, set honor in one eye and death other?
In the other.
Death if the other.
In the other.
And I will look on both indifferently. For let the gods so speed me as I love the name and honor. Oh my gosh. The name of honor more than I fear death.
This is not a humorous scene. Just so everybody knows.
Tears of sadness.
Basically, time out real quick. Cassius and Brutus are senators in the Roman Senate, and they're hearing all of these people cheer for Caesar, and they want to name Caesar king. And Cassius really doesn't want it to happen. Brutus is a really well-respected man, and he is kind of surprised to hear that Brutus is afraid of Caesar becoming king as well. So Cassius sees like a moment where he can get Brutus on his side. All right, back to the play now that we've composed ourselves. I know that virtue be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. Well, honor is the subject of my story. I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I had as lief not be as live to be in awe of such a thing as I myself. I was born free as Caesar, so were you. We both have fed as well, and we can both endure the winter's cold as well as he. For once upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber chafing with her shores, Caesar said to me, Darest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point? Upon the word, accoutred as I was, I plunged in and bade him follow. So indeed he did. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it with lusty sinews, throwing it aside and stemming it with hearts of controversy. But ere we could arrive the point proposed, Caesar cried, Help me, Cassius, or I sink. I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flame.
It's a lot worse.
It's a weird name. Weird name.
Aeneas.
I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy. Upon his shoulder, the old Anchises bear, so from the waves of Tiber did the tired Caesar, and this man is now become a god, and Cassius is a wretched creature, and must bend his body. If Caesar carelessly but not on him, he had a fever when he was in Spain, and when the fit was on him, I did mark how he did shake. 'Tis true this god did shake, his coward lips did from their color fly, and the same eye whose bend doth awe the world did lose his luster. I did hear him groan, I, and that tongue of his that bade the Romans mark him and write his speeches in their books. Alas, it cried, give me some drink, Titinius. As a sick girl, you gods, it doth amaze me a man of such feeble temper should so get the start of the majestic world and bear the palm alone. All right, once again, I'm going to interject. So basically, Cassius and Brutus are talking right here, and Cassius is making the point that Caesar is being viewed as almost like a god by the people and this hero. And Cassius is saying, I was born as free as Caesar, meaning he feels like he's Caesar's equal. And he explains these stories like they tried to swim across a river in the wintertime, and Cassius made it, and Caesar didn't. Cassius actually had to help him. And then one time when Caesar was sick, he was basically complaining. He was like crying out, and it says like a young girl that he wanted something to drink when he was sick. And Cassius is making the point that Caesar's not that special, and he's trying to convince Brutus that there's no reason that the people should see him as their king or as a god. And so at the end of that speech, they hear the crowd roar again. And now Brutus.
Another general shout. I do believe that these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar.
Why, man, He doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. Brutus and Caesar, what should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is as fair a name. Sound them. It doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them. It is as heavy. Conjure with them. Brutus will start a spirit as soon as Caesar. Now in the names of all the gods at once, upon what meat doth this our Caesar feed, that he is grown so great? Age, thou art shamed. Rome, thou hast lost the breed of noble bloods. When went there by an age since the great flood, but it was famed with more than with one man? When could they say till now that they talked of Rome, that their wide walks encompassed but one man? Now is it Rome indeed, and room enough when there is in it but one only man. Oh, you and I have heard our fathers say, there was a Brutus once that would have brooked the eternal devil to keep his state in Rome as easily as a king.
That you do love me, I am nothing jealous. What would you work me to? What would you work me to? I have some aim. How I have thought of this and of these times, I shall recount hereafter. For this present I would not. So with love I might entreat you. Be any further moved. What you have said I will consider. What you have to say I will patience hear. I will with patience hear, and find a time both meet to hear and answer such high things. Till then, my noble friend, chew upon this. Brutus had rather be a villager than to repute himself a son of Rome. Under these hard conditions as this time is like to lay upon us.
I am glad that my weak words have struck but thus much show of fire from Brutus. Enter Caesar and his train.
The games are done, and Caesar is returning.
As they pass by, pluck Casca by the sleeve, and he will, after his sour fashion, tell you what hath preceded worthy note today.
I will do so, but look you, Cassius, the angry spot doth glow on Caesar's brow, and all the rest look like a chidden train. Calpurnia, right? Yeah. Calpurnia's cheek is pale, and Cicero looks with such ferret and such fiery eyes as we have seen him in the Capitol, being crossed in conference by some senators.
Casca will tell us what the matter is. Antonius.
Caesar.
Caesar. Good job, honey.
Keep going.
You waited so long for that one. Let me have men about me that are fat, sleek-headed men, and such as sleep o' nights. Yon Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous.
Fear him not, Caesar. He's not dangerous. He is a noble Roman and well given.
Would he were fatter, but I fear him not. Yet if my name were liable to fear, I do not know the man I should avoid so soon as that spare Cassius. He reads much. He is a great observer, and he looks quite through the deeds of men. He loves no plays, as thou dost, Antony. He hears no music. Seldom he smiles, and smiles in such a sort as if he mocked himself and scorned his spirit that could be moved to smile at anything. Such men as he be never at heart's ease, whiles they behold a greater than themselves, and therefore are they very dangerous. I rather tell thee what is to be feared than what I fear, for always I am Caesar. Come on my right hand, for this ear is deaf, and tell me what truly thou thinkest of him. Okay, real quick, another interjection. So this is some foreshadowing right here. Caesar comes back after basically being applauded by the entire population, and people want to name him king. And he comes back and he's talking to Antony, who's one of his closest confidants. And he tells Antony, he's like, hey, we got to watch out for Cassius. And so that's some foreshadowing because Cassius and Brutus just had this conversation about how Cassius doesn't like how Caesar's got all this power and he sees himself as Caesar's equal. And Caesar comes in and he's like, I think we got to watch out for this guy. And Antony's like, you don't need to be afraid of anybody. You're Caesar. And Caesar himself is like, oh, you know what? You're right. I don't need to be afraid of anybody. I am Caesar no matter what. I'm not saying I'm afraid of this guy. I'm just saying we need to watch out for this guy because whenever he's around somebody better than him, he doesn't like him. And he points out all these details like Cassius doesn't go to plays. He doesn't like any kind of entertainment. He just watches people all the time. And so Caesar sees that. We also learn a really important detail right here that we'll bring up later. Caesar's deaf in one ear, and there's a lot of symbolic significance right there that he only hears the things the line right here, Antony's telling him something and he doesn't want to hear it, and then Caesar tells him to come to the other side and he says, tell me why you like me so much. So he only wants to hear the things that he likes or that are good about him and nothing that's bad about him. All right, so when he's done speaking, the trumpet sounds and it says, Caesar and his train exit, but Casca remains behind.
You pulled me by the cloak. Would you speak with me?
Aye, Casca, tell us what hath chanced today, that Caesar looks so sad.
Why, you were with him, were you not?
I should not then ask, Casca, what had chanced.
Why, there was a crown offered him, and being offered him, he put it by with the back of his hand, thus, and then the people fell a-shouting.
What was the second noise for?
Why, for that too.
They shouted thrice. What was the last cry for?
Why, for that too.
Was the crown offered him thrice?
Aye, merry was't, and he put it by thrice, every time gentler than other, and at every putting by, mine honest neighbors shouted.
Why, who offered him the crown?
Why, Antony.
Tell us the manner of it, gentle Casca.
I can as well be hanged as tell the manner of it. It was mere foolery. I did not mark it. I saw Mark Antony offer him a crown, yet 'twas not a crown neither. 'Twas one of those coronets, and as I told you, he put it by once. But for all that, to my thinking, he would fain have had it. Then he offered it to him again. Then he put it by again. But to my thinking, he was very loath to lay his fingers off it. And then he offered it the third time. He put it the third time by, and still as he refused it, the rabblement hooted, and clapped their chopped hands, and threw up their sweaty nightcaps, and uttered such a deal of stinking breath because Caesar refused the crown, that it had almost choked Caesar, for he swooned and fell down at it. And for mine own part, I durst not laugh for fear of opening my lips and receiving the bad air.
But soft, I pray you, what did Caesar swoon?
He fell down in the marketplace, and foamed at mouth, and was speechless.
'Tis very like he hath the falling sickness.
No, Caesar hath it
No,
not.
Caesar hath it not. But you and I, and honest Casca, we have the falling sickness.
I know not what you mean by that, but I am sure Caesar fell down. If the tag-rag people did not clap him and hiss him according as he pleased and displeased them, as they used to do the players in the theater, I am no true man.
What said he when he came unto himself?
Marry, before he fell down, when he perceived the common herd was glad he refused the crown, he plucked me ope his doublet, and offered them his throat to cut. And I had been a man of any occupation, if I would not have taken him at a word, I would I might go to hell among the rogues. And so he fell. When he came to himself again, he said if he had done or said anything amiss, he desired their worships to think it was his infirmity. 3 or 4 wenches where I stood cried, Alas, good soul, and forgave him with all their hearts. But there's no heed to be taken of them. If Caesar had stabbed their mothers, they would have done no less.
And after that he came thus sad away?
Aye,
Did Cicero say anything?
aye, he spoke Greek.
To what effect?
Nay, and I tell you that I'll ne'er look you it the face again. Whatever that is.
It's in the, so real quick, that's iambic pentameter. Shakespeare couldn't have the extra syllables, so he took out the letters.
I'll ne'er look you in the face again. But those that understood him smiled at one another and shook their heads. But for mine own part, it was Greek to me. I could tell you more news, too. Marulus and Flavius, for pulling scarves off Caesar's images, are put to silence. Fare you well. There was more foolery yet, if I could remember it.
Will you sup with me tonight, Casca?
No, I am promised forth.
Will you dine with me tomorrow?
Aye, if I be alive, and your mind hold, and your dinner worth the eating.
Good. I will expect you.
Do so. Farewell, both.
He exits real quick. So we gotta. I need to go over a few things with you guys. First, this they Casca comes by. He was in the crowd or behind Caesar. He was part of Caesar's group when he was speaking to the crowd. And what happened is Mark Antony actually offered Caesar the crown 3 times. And every time he was offered the crown, Caesar rejected it. But there's some hints here that Caesar wasn't really rejecting it because he didn't want to be king. He was rejecting it because he loved how much the people loved him for rejecting it. So each time that he rejected it, Caesar was a little slower to reject it, which hints that he actually wanted to keep it. But every time he rejected it, the crowd cheered even louder. And so the fact that he was offered the crown 3 times and he rejected it 3 times, but he rejected it slower each time, indicates that he kind of understands how he's perceived by the people, but he's also tempted by the allure of power. Now, the next thing is, it says afterwards, he fell over and he started foaming at the mouth. And it's because he suffered from seizures. So he had a seizure right there. And Cassius says something interesting. It's like a play on words where he says, Caesar doesn't suffer from the falling disease. It's us who suffer from the falling disease. And he's saying, like, basically, we're falling for this act that Caesar's giving, and the people are falling for it as well. Casca also mentions that those 2 characters from the first scene, Flavius and Marulus, who they were tearing down all of these decorations that were designed to celebrate Caesar. Caesar was just returning from a war with Pompey, and he conquered him, and they were tearing down these decorations because they didn't like Caesar. It says they've been silenced now, which is maybe a hint that they were killed. Okay, so now we will continue.
What a blunt fellow is this grown to be. He was quick mettle when he went to school.
So is he now in execution of any bold or noble enterprise. However, he puts on this tardy form. This rudeness is a sauce to his good wit, which gives men stomach to digest his words with better appetite.
And so it is. For this time I will leave you. Tomorrow, if you please to speak with me, I will come home to you. Or, if you will, come home to me, and I will await for you.
I will do so. Till then, think of the world. Brutus exits. Well, Brutus, thou art noble, yet I see thy honorable metal may be wrought from that it is disposed. Therefore it is meet that noble minds keep ever with their likes. For who so firm that cannot be seduced? Caesar doth bear me hard, but he loves Brutus. If I were Brutus now, and he were Cassius, he should not humor me. I will this night in several hands in at his windows throw, as if they came from several citizens, writings, all tending to the great opinion that Rome holds of his name, wherein obscurely Caesar's ambition shall be glanced at. And after this, let Caesar seat him sure, for we will shake him, or worse days endure. He exits. All right, what Cassius is saying right there is he's not totally sure that he's convinced Brutus to take his side. So he's going to write like several letters tonight, and he's going to make them all in different handwriting, and he's going to throw them in the window at Brutus's house. And they're all going to talk about how much respect they have for Brutus, but also how they're tempted, or how they recognize Caesar's ambition to be king and how they don't want that to happen. So Cassius is kind of manipulating, well, not kind of, he's absolutely trying to manipulate Brutus into taking his side. All right, and I apologize at the beginning how I wasn't following along with the script, but I fixed it later on. So that is, and scene, Act 2.